Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs. And my name again is JDavis. We continue to stream stories of entrepreneurship, leadership, business in this economy. And today, my guest host is the one, the only partner of mine on the radio show, Marc Z, president of Marc Z Legal Staffing. Welcome back, Marc.
Thanks, Jeff. Great to be here. Great to co-host with you.
You know, I'm going to like this next interview. I love what this next attorney does. I want to introduce everybody to Joseph Russo, owner and managing partner, Granite Law Group. Welcome, Joe.
Thanks for having me, Jeff. Marc, good to see you again.
Good to see you too, Joe. Thanks for coming on the show.
My
Joe,
pleasure.
tell us about your practice and your specialty, because I know a little bit already. Marc knows a lot.
Sure. So we handle all sorts of catastrophic personal injury cases. In recent years, it's become a lot more heavy with medical malpractice and things of that nature. We're right on the border between New Hampshire and Massachusetts, so we practice in both jurisdictions. And, you know, we'll do some of the volume work as well just to maintain cash flow, which is a big challenge in my line of work because we work on a contingency fee basis.
Joe, you know, you talk about you do sort of volume and then for cash flow, but one of the big interesting things that we're seeing in your industry are a lot of out-of-state national firms coming in and merging with practices, and the practices are agreeing to be merged because of the idea of financing. One of the big reasons of financing cases. How do you go about handling those situations? Because that's huge. Some of these cases don't proceed for many years.
Yeah, sure. That's a great point. And I think you hit the nail on the head in terms of outside competition. So let me speak on that first, and then I'll speak on the financing aspect. So the outside competition, I'm not going to name names, but there's been a couple of large national law firms in the market space. The rumor is they're backed by private equity. They'll identify a certain market and they will dump millions upon millions of dollars in advertising for billboards, digital marketing campaigns, and so forth. So some of the local mid-tier firms try to keep up with them. I don't know how much success that they're having with that. I think it really burns down a lot of their profitability. So that 100% is a challenge. And so that's translated a lot to the lack of volume cases. Generally speaking, if you have a catastrophic injury, you or a loved one, you're going to vet your attorney. You're going to do your due diligence. You're going to find out who are the players that are able to handle, you know, a seven-figure, multi-seven-figure case. But just for your run-of-the-mill $100,000, $250,000 auto collision case, you're just going on Google, and whoever is top on that list, you're going to click and you're going to retain that person. So that's been a big challenge. So we've seen a lot of the volume work start to wane, but that also has translated to an uptick in some of the more complex matters that take a lot more time to see to fruition. And that brings me to the second part, is how do you deal with that? We've been fortunate to work with a lender that is specific to the litigation space. I could say their name, it's Advocate Capital. They've been a tremendous partner for my law practice because they're not just like a traditional bank where they'll extend a line of credit. They have a software platform that allows you to identify how much you're taking out per each case, and they keep track of the interest for that individual case. So you could use work, you could use case expense capital. You know, you have to check your ethical rules in your jurisdiction, but in the jurisdictions I practice in, as long as you disclose that you're going to work with an outside lender to fund the case, that goes right in the retainer agreement. And so the interest is part of one of the disbursements when the case wraps up. And frankly, you know, the interest on an individual case, let's say you do a med mal and you're drawing down $100,000 to see it complete from soup to nuts with all the experts, what have you. It's not going to be a lot of money, all things considered. So, you know, the clients never have any issue with it, and it really gives us the ability to have some staying power, not take low offers and see it through. And some jurisdictions are more difficult than others in terms of what is the timeline, what is the duration of how long the case is going to take. Happy to talk about that, but Massachusetts is a disaster. New Hampshire is a lot more forgiving in that regard.
So from our understanding your practice by not only being on the border, so you could handle Massachusetts cases, but your firm is one of the leaders in New Hampshire. I know you're very well respected for the New Hampshire bar, and you do a lot of work in New Hampshire and a lot of key communities in major cities there. Is that correct?
That's correct, and thank you for that. So New Hampshire is a smaller market. There are less firms that have the capability of doing a seven-figure medical malpractice case, so there's less competition. And so I live in Newton. I live right outside of Boston, and I started practicing in the Massachusetts area for about a decade before I got sworn in. So I have a ton of relationships, especially referral relationships through networking groups and personal connections. So and the border is quite blended. It's not like some other jurisdictions where there's no overflow of business from state to state. For whatever reason, maybe it's a lack of sales tax or whatever. There are people traveling between northern Massachusetts and New Hampshire all the time, so you see a lot of cross-pollination, and so we have a strategic spot that's right on the border that allows us to practice in both jurisdictions.
Joe, you triggered me earlier when you mentioned Google, and it's always been of interest to me with a background, some of my background in marketing, and earlier in my career. How do you deal with it? I would assume that a lot of attorneys are getting business who don't deserve business. I was just in Florida, and I can't be from 7 in the morning till 9 in the morning. All I see are, it seems like, attorneys advertising who haven't learned to shave yet, because they don't have a beard yet. So I'm just wondering how you adapt to that and get your message out, that you can do the job. It's not just a Google search, in which is what it's all about.
Yeah, Jeff, I think you brought a great point up, and my partner and I just had a meeting about this. What we think is going to be the difference maker is not playing the Google AdWords game, which, in my estimation, is a losing proposition. We think it's the message, and we think it's the content. Now, a lot of the videos on social media, well, first of all, you have to understand your demographics, right? So the younger generation is doing TikTok and Instagram. The baby boomers are doing Facebook. You're able to run very efficient advertising campaigns on those two platforms and identify what demographics you want to target. So that's a very helpful tool. And it's a lot cheaper than Google. The difference is you're not going to be competing for specific keywords where people are saying, who is the best personal injury attorney by me, for example. They're more, it's repeat messaging to be top of mind. So when something does happen, they'll be able to remember you and identify you. And then it's the message. It's being able to come out with content that is short, tight, that allows you to speak to the shortened attention spans of people. And you have to be able to articulate what your message is, what you do, and come off as competent and knowledgeable. And so we're actually vetting some marketing firms right now to try to roll out that message and go heavy with video content on all the different platforms.
Interesting. Right. Interesting. Joe, the other thing is, Jeff and I have talked about it, that there's a big difference in terms of the states, and especially your involvement in New Hampshire. What's very interesting about New Hampshire is you have probably half the bar are attorneys that practice from out of state, and you don't have a lot of local attorneys, maybe only half the 50% members of that bar. So do you find that helps you by being an active part of the New Hampshire bar?
Yeah, absolutely. Big fish, small pond. 110%. It's a smaller bar. It was easier to get my name out there. I had a good $5 million result, and it rang some bells, whereas, the notoriety for that in the Boston market wouldn't have been as pronounced. So, Yeah, it's been helpful. And the thing is too, you have to identify, you have to do an analysis, like what are the case values? What is the market value of an arthroscopic shoulder repair with a Massachusetts jury versus a New Hampshire jury? Well, some might say that the New Hampshire jury is going to be a little more frugal than the Massachusetts jury, but it's multi-layered. You have to factor in what's the prejudgment interest. You have to factor in, but the biggest factor, by far and away, in my estimation, is your ability to see a case through to fruition and what is the timeline. Because on a contingency fee model, that is by far and away the biggest challenge. How long is this going to take? What's your nut, and being able to have to stagger your cases so you don't have any significant dips in cash flow. And New Hampshire, once you put a case into litigation, because the court system is less congested, you're going to get your trial date within a year to a year and a half. Whereas with Massachusetts, I have some med mals, it could last 3 years. And the piece that's crucially important is New Hampshire has mandatory mediation, which means before you are picking your jury, you have to, in good faith, participate in a mediation with a neutral party that's going to oversee settlement discussions. Now, you're not always going to get the number that you want, but if you have demonstrated that you're competent, you worked up the case the right way, you spent the right amount of money on the right experts, you showed that you're quite competent, you're going to get in the range that you should be in, and then it becomes a business decision for the client. So that has been a tremendous help as far as creating a level of predictability in a business that's quite unpredictable.
It's all intriguing, totally, especially, personal injury. I've seen a lot of different issues over my career. Joe, if somebody wants to know more about you and how you can help them, maybe give them information on personal injury and other areas that you work, how would they find you?
Sure. So we're on all platforms, but the website is granite-law-group.com. And then Granite Law Group on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, YouTube. Not too many people watch my videos, but we're working on that. And you can find me anywhere as long as you Google Granite Law Group. There's only one firm like that, and I'll be easy to find.
Well, we'll be able to get you onto YouTube, so we'll help you with that, we hope. Marc Z, people looking for you all the time. How do they find you?
Well, first of all, Jeff, I want to thank Joe for being on the show. Joe, I've watched your videos, and one of them obviously talking about the uptick in terms of what's going on in New Hampshire is very interesting. I mean, I think that it's very informative when you have the YouTube videos. Thank you, Jeff. First of all, go on our wonderful Radio Entrepreneurs website, radioentrepreneurs.com. Google Marc Z, M-A-R-C, the letter Z, marczlegal.com, MARCZLEGAL.com, and marczlegal.com, MARCZLEGAL.com, and 617-338-1300. As you can see, I'm very excited, Jeff.
Oh, yeah, but I drugged Marc this morning. That's why I forgot his number. And for those who would ever want to find me, we do organizational work, family business transition, management consulting, strategy, team building. You can find me at JDavis at mageusa.com, or just look us up at Mage or at Radio Entrepreneurs. And thanks, Joe, for being on the show today. Thank you very much, Marc Z. This is Radio Entrepreneurs.